Gloria Victis has always been a very difficult game for new players, but it doesn't have to be. Let's start with the basics. Gloria Victis has directional combat, like Outnumbered. What this means is that you can attack in 4 directions, and also need to block those directions. By default, this is done by moving the mouse in the direction that you want and left-clicking to attack, or right-clicking to block. There are different options for inputs, but we'll talk about that later. This is the core of the entire combat system, and you could get by just by learning how to do this. When attacking, you should pay attention to the 2 different levels of charge. There are light attacks and heavy attacks. Light attacks are faster, but do a lot less damage. Heavy attacks are slower, but hit a lot harder, interrupt enemy attacks, and can cleave enemies with the Reaper perk. If you block while holding a swing, you cancel that swing. This is called feinting, and is used to confuse your opponent, or simply just to cancel your swing. This is the attack indicator. It indicates where an attack is coming from. Move your mouse in the direction the indicator is pointing, and right-click. You can also use a shield, completely ignoring the directional blocking, right up until the point the shield breaks anyway. While a shield seems like an easy way out, you'll eventually get caught without one, so do yourself a favor and learn how to block. It's important to only block when there's actually an indicator on screen. If there isn't one, your opponent may be about to kick you. Kicks stun you if they hit you while you're blocking. So likewise, if you want to kick someone, you should first charge a swing to make sure that they have to block. Blocking to either left or right can block both sides if you angle your block correctly, but you will never be able to block a middle attack. The final combat mechanic we need to talk about is chambering. Chambering is essentially just blocking with the first part of your attack windup, and while I'm talking about it, I want to tell you that if you're new, you shouldn't be doing this. And if you're dueling someone, you should likely also not be doing this. Chambering has uses, but they are niche, and we'll get there. Before moving on to combining everything that we've just learned, I want to talk about initiative. Initiative in this context just describes whether it is your turn or not. Can you safely attack now, or will it end up in taking a hit? Gloria Victis is very much a turn-based game. If your attack gets blocked, it is your enemy's turn, and vice versa. Even if your swing connects, it is still your enemy's turn. You don't really get any offensive momentum, and really need to be aware of that before you get really confused. This is essentially all there is to Gloria Victis' combat. Anything else is just combining these base mechanics along with some game sense, and being able to read your opponent. I want to quickly go over weapon choices. Every weapon is viable and useful in certain situations. Every weapon has a damage multiplier for every single attack direction, as well as a damage type. Light armor is weak to everything, medium armor is weak to piercing damage, and heavy armor is weak to blunt. So make sure to use the correct weapon, attack direction, and damage type for the current opponent. For two-handers, swords are versatile and quick. They scale well and have a 1.0 slashing damage multiplier on every attack apart from its stab. Hammers do blunt damage and go bonk on overhead swings with a 1.1 damage multiplier. Axes have weaker side swings, but a 1.15 overhead multiplier along with armor penetration. Spears only deal good damage when stabbing and also have armor penetration, but have an exceptionally long range. The downside being that they can't cleave. One-handers are really much the same, apart from being a bit shorter, all being the exact same speed except for daggers, and none of them can cleave. People often get stuck in Gloria Victis because their inputs don't feel right. Your settings are mostly a preference, so I can't tell you exactly what to do. The thing that you need to know is if you are getting the wrong input with mouse controls, is that you need to very deliberately move your mouse first, and then click. In games like Outnumbered, you're allowed to click first and then move your mouse after. Not in Gloria Victis. You should also have a look at your dead zone settings. Setting this to 0 gives you the most responsive inputs, but a higher value might give you less mistakes. You can, of course, also choose to keybind your blocks. There are some advantages to binding your blocks to keyboard presses instead, mostly allowing you to look around freely without affecting your blocking direction, thus making mistakes much less likely. What's important here is to use keys that don't make you lift your movement fingers. A very common bind is putting middle block on spacebar, as this is the hardest block direction to get right with the mouse. Just mess around with it, you'll find something. I don't keybind, but if I had to, I'd put left block on Alt, right block on space, and middle block on right click, so I could just wiggle my thumb between Alt and space. Watching a video won't make you a good fighter. It isn't a bad idea to simply practice blocking while going through the main questline. If you just want to practice the mechanics, you could teleport to the open arena, move right, and fight the combat trainers. The higher the level the trainer, the more advanced mechanics they'll use. They'll block better, feint more, kick more. Remember, your goal isn't to kill them. Killing them doesn't give you anything. It's to practice the mechanics. When you start getting comfortable fighting NPCs, you can queue for the dueling arena instead. Some people will be better than the NPCs you fought. Some will be worse. It also helps to initially play a fairly tanky bruiser. You'll spend less time dead, and more time practicing. While dueling teaches you the foundation of your gameplay, it won't automatically make you a good group fighter. Group fights are much more about awareness, attacking the right people and not getting caught out. What's most important here is that you don't get stuck in a duel. You're essentially trading, putting yourself out of the fight to put one other person out of the fight. It's far better to look around for people that aren't paying attention to you and hit them. Try not to focus anyone holding a shield up, as they'll be nearly impossible to kill and you'll just be wasting your time. Though sometimes everyone has a shield. Just do your best. If you're low health, don't just turn around and walk away. You'll get backstabbed. Keep looking at your opponents and walk backwards. Block what you need to until you get out of combat mode. Then you can turn around and run. It's better to leave the fight to heal up than to die and have to respawn. Range is king in group fights. You'll see almost everyone using spears, halberds, and bardishes, as they allow you to pick from a much larger amount of unaware people to poke without overextending yourself. You can play a sword or a hammer or anything else. You'll just need to pick your fights much more carefully around the outside of the main group. Spears being the main weapon used in group fights also makes heavy armor the smartest choice here. If you find yourself going 2 against 1, there's a good way to kill the enemy as quickly as possible, and that is to synchronize your attacks. We know that we can block 2 side swings with 1 block, but it is impossible to block a middle attack and a side attack at the same time without a shield. So what you'll have to do is sync a middle attack and a side attack with your teammate. If you have an axe, hammer, or spear, you'll likely be doing the middle attack. Pay attention to what your teammate has. If their weapon is better at doing middle attacks than yours, you'll have to do side swings. Hold your attack over the enemy until your teammate looks ready to attack. This will nearly guarantee a win, no matter how much better your enemy might be. But what do you do if your opponent has a shield? The simplest answer is for one person to hold an attack while the other kicks. It's often worth it to try to get behind your opponent after kicking him and waiting for your teammate to hit them from the front first, as hitting them in the back first will let them block your teammate. But a good shield player can dodge most kicks anyway. At this point you have 2 options: break the shield or get behind him. Breaking shields takes a really long time, even with an axe, and is usually just not worth it with all the shield perks available. You really want to try to hit them in the back, but a straight line to their back will often hurt you more than anything. Instead, try walking a little to their side, but parallel with them while swinging the outside direction. If you're left, swing left. If you're right, swing right. This reduces their blocking angle as much as possible, while also getting behind them as quickly as possible. If you do decide to break their shield, beware of the Last Stand perk, which regenerates a portion of their shield after they block 3 consecutive attacks with their weapon. You can either throw something, or kick them every 2 blocks to reset that counter. Sometimes a group fight means the enemy has a group and you don't, or a smaller one at least. This is almost a guaranteed loss, as the opponent always has spare players to sync swings on you or your teammates, but there are a couple of things that you can do to increase your chances. It is extra important here not to duel anyone. You want to constantly switch targets to try and hit someone in the back. It is okay to take a few more risks here, as prolonging the fight will almost always lead to you dying. However, if it looks like your teammates have it under control, it is still best for you to play it safe. If you're so outnumbered that you're fighting multiple opponents on your own, we call this a 1vx. I want to add that 1vx's are essentially impossible without the opponent being either new or completely fumbling the fight. You can get really good at it and still lose almost all of them. This is nothing to get frustrated about and is just kind of how the game works. 1vxing relies on you being inside every opponent's head within seconds of the fight starting, reading them like a book and knowing what they'll do before they know. You'll have to constantly switch from person to person, and there's a sort of list to go through to figure out who is the current priority. Whoever attacks first should be blocked first. You then have to quickly learn who holds swings and who doesn't. If you know one person holds swings and another doesn't, you can quickly switch to block or chamber the person that doesn't hold, and then switch back to the one that does. Someone who suddenly moves closer to you is likely to swing now. You can also bait them to attack when you want them to, by instead moving closer to them. This is death. If you keep holding S, you will die. You have to run through them to clump them back together. Anyone whose attack is blocked by their teammates can be mostly ignored, as their attack does very little damage and cannot interrupt. You can even move around your opponents to try to get one of them to block the others. If you're putting pressure by holding a swing, you can pretend to switch targets and then turn back to hit the original opponent when they've dropped their block for an attack. Chambering in a 1vx is also very strong, as it prevents you from ever getting kicked. The main downside being timing, of course, and that getting interrupted now also means that your defense is down. Chambering also allows you to find openings more easily, along with allowing you to cue them out of blocks. It usually goes like this. Block one guy, cue a chamber for the second, and use that chamber to hit the third. Try to prioritize blocking middle attacks and chambering side swings, as that will give you the opportunity to cleave multiple opponents, interrupting all of them. After all of that, the server lags, or you gamble incorrectly, or an archer shoots you and you likely die, but it was fun. And I hope you have a nice day. See you.